let's talk about, we haven't talked about it. Let's talk about it.
We're going to talk about...
Well, let's talk about this.
And let's talk about it. Right.
I mean, if we're just going to talk about it, we should talk about it. We're talking about it and we're just talking about it.
I agree.
Dun, 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 dun.
Short, sweet, fun, upbeat.
It's short and sweet.
This song has a nice mellow vibe. It's short. It's to the point.
Like you said, it was straightforward, and I kind of like that because a lot of times you try to overcomplicate a song, but the song has a decent verse, so double that up, chorus, and the song.
The riff is, and I think you did a really cool video for us, like, you know, when you were recording the drums. The riff is insanely original.
It has to be by feel, because I'm not a technical guitar player. I never learned much about theory or any of it. I know Kevin has had like a renaissance with like focusing on like scales and that kind of stuff. I never did good with that. And so when I write something, I'm literally writing it because I'm like, all right, I think that would sound good, and I think that guitar will kick in there, bass, drums, and like, but it's literally all by feel and not thinking about timing. So timing could be way off, and that's why it's good to have you guys hear it and be like, well, why don't you just play that one more time, and then now it's a 4. Like, it just makes sense. Yeah, you should write it how it feels and then tweak it afterwards.
It's another like radio hit, and it's fun and more upbeat.
And I think it's going to be a really great sing-along because you have a great chorus idea to it. Feels a little short, you know. I didn't love how it ended in the beginning.
The chorus is a very basic, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, which is kind of repetitive in like a good way.
The diversity was always something that we had in our album.
I would say this song has a proud moment for me. That chorus, that bono,
Yeah.
I wrote that, and I was like, all right, that works. I just layered something. I never layer something. That's like the first time I wrote something and wrote 2 layers to it. So that's like a proud moment in the recording.
People that aren't metal fans or into any kind of like heavier stuff, they're gonna go to that first. And maybe listen to those, they might start liking the other ones.
I've pretty much had it memorized for a long time now.
When Carl heard it, he said it's Missing Persons too, which is funny because when you write a song, I don't think you ever say like, oh, it's going to be like a part 2 of something. But when I hear it, I don't necessarily think that, but I think it's just the style in which I write. My timing, I just go to that. It's muscle memory. I have to be like, all right, what's the freaking timing of that? Because I know that it's going to throw people off. And so that one, unfortunately, is that way. Like, there is something about, there's a part where you kind of...
Just kind of feels like having some good times with friends. If you ask me, what does Missing Persons 2 make you feel like? That's what it is. I can picture just a barbecue or something like that.
But it feels fun. It's a really fun, easier song to play, but the vibes are just there. I think it's a continuation of our growth as a band.
This night is
This night is too young to die like this. Folded arms still made again. Huh? I mean, Paul just texted a video of himself a couple weeks ago. It's pretty much an entirely new song that I was on board with. I mean, he pretty much has the whole thing figured out, it sounds like. So from that standpoint, I think it's, I think that one's there. You know, that's just going to take like a couple of run-throughs together to just make sure everybody knows what they're doing for it.
Like, this song is written. It's ready to go. Press it on the vinyl.
Objects.
That was our late ad. I think we got in a room only one time and played it together.
Like, we actually wrote an emo song.
But the cool thing is, it's resonated with all four of us.
That song was a hit. Like, it was a late bloomer. It came towards the end of the year, but we all loved it right away.
I really, really, really like it.
I love it.
I love it because of how much it reminds me of like Jonah and Far.
Which I love Far.
That early 2000s, a pivotal time period in your life, so it like takes you back there.
When I think of influences for that song, I just think of just really good hard rock songs that we listen to.
All right, well, we're going to stay in. If we're going to do some songs within that box, within that kind of like idea, that song is right off the bat easier to digest for people. Kind of a bopper, and you're kind of grooving with it.
I feel mellow when I listen to it, especially the verse.
It feels just more like a mellow drive with the windows open on a warm day kind of vibe.
Maybe like listening to it on the beach or.
Kevin has some really juicy moments in there, and I mean, when I wrote it, the guitar parts and stuff for it, I didn't know how all that was going to look, but I knew I wanted it to kind of have a lot of layers. Carl just said, you love synth, and it's like, that's like kind of the one where I can see some background and some like layers and some different things in there.
Track listing? I don't know. Somewhere in the middle, I would say.
Maybe it's like a second song, second and third.
The chorus portion of it seems to like almost call for like a very melodic, like a singy sort of chorus. And I don't consider myself a very good singer, and it's just difficult. So whatever we come up with, I just want it to be something that's like catchy. I guess you would say catchy. This song is Sunset on a wide open two-sided street.
It was two chords that kind of started the whole thing, and then kind of that bass riff that Kevin rides, and he does an insanely good job of doing that. And from there, it was a combination. There's a weird bridge in there that has a weird bending kind of riff. It was not part of the original plan, but it was in a whole different song that was kind of not rejected, but kind of just like, it's all fine. But that riff kind of stayed and kept popping up.
Sometimes if a song just kind of feels right, like just get it in there. And that song was just like, the moment you heard it, I was like, man, that's just going to be really, really nice.
The layers, and I think that it has a real atmosphere, and that's even with the bare bones of us four getting in a room. I can't wait to continue to push that song.
Love that song, love the drive of it, love the feel of it, love the positivity of it.
Yeah, I would have said Trade It for a King would have been a Paul riff, and Objects would have been a Carl Jensen riff.
Right.
In prior years. So this year was like a flip-flop of that. Playing together, you almost can kind of feel like I can see where this fits in this band. Like I feel like where this song works. I think it's more of just playing together more. It just you see where stuff when you write it where it will work in the band.
The hair swipe thing, kind of my melody that I was messing around with in the car. If what is fine, then how could I find out about your disapproval? As I paint in blurry lines, and I only need this fire disapproval. Simple.
So here's my idea for the chorus with the lyrics from last night. I just switched it up a little bit so that it would fit, but let's see.
Leave it all behind. Throw it all away. You're absent.
Leave it all behind. Throw it all away. In your absence, your absence. I'm absent.
Kevin wrote most of those lyrics, and I just kind of applied them into the song however I could. Yeah, that song is just kind of about letting go of things that you're not comfortable in, and then finding something that you are comfortable in. I think if you'd ask Kevin, I'd say he'll probably say the same thing. There's, right out of the gate, a couple of time signature changes, which are very cool. Don't get me wrong, I like that. I like that. I was confused by that song when we were first jamming it in Carl's basement. And rather than my instinct of trying to push the guys to play it differently and just, you know, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I said, you know what, no, let's stick with this. Let's keep this weird timing thing.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite song still.
I like how it rockets off with some punches, right? A lot of energy off the bat.
Yeah, I think at first it stumped me. Yes, that was. I had a hard time figuring out the how to play that song because the timing was weird.
Yeah, like grunge metal. That it has that really like, all right, you're going hard, and then you're like, oh, you're taking a back step.
It kind of reminded me of the music that I've been listening to within the last like 2 years, with the stoner rock and like the Sword.
Yeah.
It has that like groove, but they do a lot that goes through the whole song.
I wrote the intro in a total different video 6, 8, 9 months prior, and then we got in a room I think in October, and we really hashed it out, and we kind of combined about 80% of Carl's ideas, and then my intro was in the same note key, and we kind of rocked with it, and it kind of became what it has become.
I think of that song as a Paul Vittoric song, and I just took apart. So I was sitting there with a sleeveless shirt in my backyard.
Which I also own the exact same shirt, by the way.
Yeah. A Cancun
Did you
shirt.
bring it? I didn't bring it, but...
And I'm sitting there, and the outside palm tree that we have, it looks like I'm in Florida, and I write that, like, what now is the breakdown. Like, so I wrote that part, but other than that, I don't think of that song as my song. I take notes from that breakdown and blend them in, so it does take over a lot of the song. But I don't think of it as my song. I love the song.
You know, nice structured verse. I have nothing insanely complicated in that song. I'm curious to see how we're going to elevate it.
I think though at least it's straightforward. I think especially the verses.
I knew that it was just a matter of muscle memory and understanding how the parts are supposed to go, and that everything would be fine. So I'm really excited to try that one out.
The chorus kind of like opens up. Like when we're playing it, it's kind of like picturing it like a Tool video, and like this kind of like floating and spinning and like this spiral.
And then when I went to actually go put it in Logic and record it, it was really indeed weird because that was the first time I was actually able to visually see how the song goes. But instead, I remember this moment that when we were first practicing that song, where I fought myself in my urges of being like, no, it has to be 4/4 timing. And I was just like, no, screw it. Like, that's how you wrote it. I'll make this work. And it sounds awesome.
I don't think either of us are quote unquote the rhythm player or the lead player, or there's nobody who's like the master of what we do. It's we throw a whole bunch of ideas at a wall and we see how those ideas kind of blend in together. And obviously guitar, bass, you kind of take a look at the root notes and you kind of take a look and say, okay, well, what else could fit with this?
The rest of the song took off from, that part that I kind of insisted the Carl keep, and that kind of became the bridge. Really like that riff. The song feels kind of melancholy until it gets to that point, and then it kind of takes off into this like uplifting sort of like get through struggle feel.
Like happy to be in this room.
I feel like vocals could shine in that song if we find the right ones.
I had kind of an idea for a chorus, no lyrics, just kind of a vocal melody, and it was kind of in lower register.
Sonically, it sounds fantastic. I'm proud of myself for experimenting with some vocal harmony stuff in the chorus that I didn't really know how to fit in because the chorus is kind of mellow. I think the song has a good drive. I think it has a very good tone on guitars. And I think the message is pretty positive.
It's not a typical hard rock metal song.
When I approached how to sing and lyrically perform that song, Kevin wrote a lot of lyrics about having like an old trustworthy friend who always provided good advice, but somebody may have never always listened. So I made the song kind of like a dialogue where the verses of the song are that friend saying, I've always been here, why didn't you listen to me? And then the chorus is kind of the other person regretfully saying, my bad, I should have listened more, and now I'm suffering the consequences or whatever.
We kind of just kept going at it and trying, and all of a sudden we were about 2 or 3 minutes in and we all looked at each other and said, this makes sense. Like, we can take these ideas and make them blend.
Last time we hung out, Carl joked around about the Black Album coming. So I want to play the song, or this riff I should say, and see if it channels that vibe. Kind of like it. Part 2, Black Album, ready? Something like that.
Paul But True. Schadenfreude. We call Paul But True because we thought it would sound, it reminds us of Sad But True by Metallica. I don't know if that's going to stick. It's a German word that means to take pleasure in someone else's misfortune, and that's kind of the approach I took lyrically. Kind of being somebody's nightmare, and somebody creates nightmare scenarios out of things that are not real problems, so you just kind of become the villain in the scenario. Schadenfreude.
So we hung out somewhere, I don't know, a barbecue or something along those lines, and the joke was like, this year's our Black Album, and I kind of hated that in the beginning, and then I was like, all right, well, embrace it. You know, I mean, like, you know, I don't know. Is it not?
It came about because we were making a joke. This is our 5th time making music together, so the big 5th album is the Black Album by Metallica. So we started joking around, and this is like, oh, it's got to be our Black Album.
If I were to pick a song out of all of our albums that made me think of you guys, it would be that. You guys all love the 90s and the 80s metal, which I never got crazy about. I still like it, but you guys love that stuff. It kind of like reminds me of a band.
That's really cool,
So
man.
it kind of gives me that like emotional attachment to it.
This is gonna be our Black Album. We're gonna mishmash everything and use all our strengths to be strengths. And that I kind of ran with it, and I said, you know, and it does. It sounds a touch like sad but true, right? It does, right? But
Oh, guys, speaking of Black Album, check this out. This could be our like sad but true.
yeah, I
It
love
doesn't sound like
Okay.
sad but true. It feels.
it. Feels
like
like
sad.
sad but true.
Like once you guys said Black Album, I hear it, but there's a part that I like so much, and you know what it reminds me of? Slipknot. Psychosocial. I just love it. Like that's not Metallica. That is Slipknot, and we all love Slipknot. So it's a very good like little ode to them. But like at that part, that's my favorite part. I do love that. Obviously, that the main riff, but that part when it kicks in, it just you feel it deep down.
I love it so much more since we played it. 100%.
I think that song has bounce, so when it kick starts, it's like as soon as that comes on, it's like, okay, I kind of want to hear where this goes.
I love it. The song, the riff instantly was in my head, and there's definitely times I've been walking around at work or something, and I'm like,
It's kind of a slower, just a slower, straightforward rock song. I mean,
It's also kind of all over the place too, because like that's the kind of main influence, but then in getting the mid sections of the song, and that's like the other influences that all of us are into. I feel like that one part when the verse starts sounds like Muse.
I mean, there's fast and slow parts, but it's made us disciplined in order to kind of write those riffs and be able to do what we want to do.
Queens of the Stone Age is what I think of. I think of like songs for the deaf.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe like a Dropsy version of maybe like a Megadeth bridge or something like that, you know? That's where my brain kind of goes with that. With the bum 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 bums, you know? I guess I've been tasked to play that solo. I'm going to embrace it. So there's me wah on it. There's going to be some effects. It's going to be messy but fun, and hopefully it resonates.
There's so many parts of that song that just make you look forward to playing it. Like you get like a little giddy, like, oh, I get to play this part next, because it has like fun parts to play all the way through. It has to be a map change thing. It's either you're starting with it, ending with it, or it's like you need a palette cleanser. Like I feel like that's what it has to be. So it's either like I almost see it coming after one of the softer songs, like all right, you guys just played, you know, Inanimate Objects or Lost Souls, and now you need something, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like that hits a little harder. I feel like that's what that song needs to be.
Earlier, first 4 songs.
Okay.
Not first, but two
not
through
first.
4.
I don't know lyrically where it's gonna go. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those songs where it's like you guys have all sent stuff. I've sent some lyrics, but I'm not really good with the phrasing. But I don't really hear where the vocals will come in. So I'd be interested to see what you guys come up with that.
Yeah, the melody change was I struggled with from the intro / chorus. You saw what I can do in there, so that's like you got the answer. Right? Those fingers
They're walking.
constantly going.
Yeah.
Think about what else I can do. I can stir milk. I doused in a bowl
Well-
of milk and just
I can just tell that there could be a big melodic thing happening over those choruses, so that'll be really cool.
I kind of thought of like Kill 'Em All, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, you just hit that wall, and it like does a key change, yeah, and all of a sudden you're just going pop, 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 leading to the solo. But that tempo change and that rocket off, right? I mean, so I just love that it picks up and goes.
Oh, Pavel Bori.
Not bad, right?
Oh.
That's pretty fun. Paul Matru goes so hard. Yo!
The only one I just can't jump onto yet is Corduroy Thrice because I don't know it well and I haven't really heard it all together much. Corduroy Rice, I don't know. Thrice, I don't have any of that down. I have to watch that video and practice that. Maybe I'll try that this weekend.
Now, Corduroy Thrice was actually a demo from the year before. It just never really even got added to the plate. That was actually the first song coming out of Distorted Light in which we just got in a room. And I think Carl Jensen joined us late to the party that day. I think he was getting out of work. We had a circumstance. We kind of got there early. And we were just riffing on top of riffing on top of riffing. And we just started recording, like, you know, really rough iPhone demos. And you're like, hey, these 3 or 4 parts can kind of connect. And some of them were part of the song, some of them were part of a different song. And we kind of compressed 2 songs into one to make it this pretty epic song, I think.
I almost feel like that song was like 3 years old. I feel like there's been remnants of that song like been floating out in like the universe for a little while. Like I feel like that song has like been waiting to be recorded, and it finally found its home.
It reminds me of 2 vastly different bands, and that's Mastodon and Thrice. That's the working name of the song.
It does sound like a Thrice on the intro, only the intro, I think.
It's like, it's chaos, but it's organized. It's insane. But with Carl's video showing how they're almost, each part is slightly the same, but changed a little bit.
I really like the grooviness once it gets into the chorus. And I like that it's kind of repetitive, but yet unpredictable.
I like it now that I can play along with it. It's a fun song to play along with. But yeah, it was probably the song I feared the most because I was just like, even when you said the demos, I'm like, man, there's a lot of parts. And then Carl tried to send that video like, hey, it does sound like a lot, but if you just break it down, it's this, and it's repeating itself. Which did help, but it's still, if you don't know any of it and you're trying to say, hey, I'm going to record that in 2 days,
I think it'll maybe take a couple hours, but it should be fine.
I think that those high notes that you do on that one is very different. I don't think we've kind of done something like that. It's almost like Lamb of God-ish, like kind of some of that that really high note riff that you do. I think it's the most unique song that we're doing on this trip because it's a riff that I don't think we've kind of done before.
I think even though that part of the song is the verse, I think that's the moment of that song, is that riff.
It has like such a cool riff. I think that's just like, it's like a silky smooth. Yeah, I really like a modern Mastodon.
Yeah, the chorus sounds like Baroness and Mastodon and that kind of, those like southern bands.
I really like the song, selfishly, obviously, because you always kind of like draw towards the riffs that make sense with your hands or the drumming patterns that make sense with you. I think it is a return to form in regards to maybe some of our older songs, which is a nice throwback.
But still fresh to me. But I love it now that I understand it more.
What I've watched you guys do is it doesn't really matter. Well, it matters what the lyrics say because you want the song to have meaning. But a lot of times, if you have an idea of how the vocals are supposed to go, then it's a matter of just plugging in words that fit that pattern. So it's not so much like I have lyrics for this song. You have to make this work.
Right.
It's like going to be like, well, this is how the vocals will work, and what do we have in our bank? And so that gave me the onus of being like, I'm just going to dump a bunch of stuff into the lyrics Dropbox that we have, and then even if they're 4 or 5 lines of a song, if I put volume in there, then when we finally land on a phrasing, just start pulling stuff from that, because then we'll actually have something. Because that's usually the hardest part, is just trying to say what direction we want to go.
That song is very loud, it's fast, it's aggressive. Again, has a little bit of everything as far as influences are concerned, but it's an angry song. I wrote it coming from a place of needing to vent frustration over people that just take advantage of bad situations for their own personal gain, and to not leave matters alone. All I'll say about that. I didn't write all those lyrics myself. That song, I stole some lyrics from Carl Jensen from something that he was working on, and from Paul from a song that he wrote, I guess, lyrically a while back. I recorded vocals for the whole song. Okay, so my adrenaline is running pretty high right now. I just spent the entire night writing the lyrics to and recording the vocals to a song known as Corduroy Thrice. I had some very personal feelings that I wanted to get out, and I just uploaded it. I've just been listening to it, and I'm super excited about it right now. So hopefully everybody else is. I mean, I don't know. I kind of did this last year with a song where I just kind of took it and said, you know what, I'm going to make this my own kind of thing. But man, I'm seriously, like, not only am I excited because I got that song done, because it sounds awesome, but I'm also excited because that's the last song to do vocals on. So once this is squared away, everything else is just cleaning things up. We have all the lyrics and styles figured out. So Corduroy Thrice was the last one. And as of right now, Corduroy Thrice is known as Bottom Feeder. I was calling it Bottom Feeder, or maybe the Bottom Feeders, I don't know, something like that. It might completely change. And I hope that it sticks, and I hope people like it. Well, about a month ago, I made a video from downstairs in my garage. Very excited because I thought that we had finished vocal tracks on all of the songs. The last song we were calling Corduroy Thrice, and I came up with something that worked, kind of, but I think me most of all, I wasn't happy with the turnout of it. I think the lyrics could have been better, and so I think where we landed now, again, about a month later, it's the end of May, Memorial Day just passed.
Stamp your approval, rewind the horrors, instinct zero. Fragments of you, auctioned off to.
So actually what ended up being the final version of the song lyrically is this, and it was written by a good friend of ours who lives out in Arizona, who helped me out. I sent him the instrumental version, and he sent me an entire song's worth of lyrics and a theme, which I really liked. I changed a little bit, but essentially a good chunk of the chorus and a part of one of the verses, which is actually the end verse now, stayed as he wrote it. So it's pretty cool to have an outside contributor help with something like this.
I think it'll maybe take a couple hours, but should be fine. Should be fine.
I do like that intro riff, because I usually don't write something that fast, and that I was happy that I wrote something that actually had a little speed, that it wasn't like, I need a slow build up, and that one I actually wrote fast.
We've got another song called Behavior 2, or Carl's Every Time I Die song. I don't know.
Traded for the King.
Traded for a King. That song's gonna be like, oh, what are they doing?
That is our screwball of the trip here.
It's probably like the dark horse on this go around. It's the probably heaviest.
It is.
Like, I just love how punchy that song is, and how it just doesn't mince any doesn't waste any time.
I feel connected to it because it has that rock and funk vibe that I was able to do with it.
It's just a lot of energy in that song, and I think you'll be able to hear how excited all of us are to play it.
Kind of riffy and different. Carl Jensen ripped a riff in which my fingers could barely stretch in the beginning.
Carl came over to my house one day and showed me the opening part.
I love those like powerful build-up riffs, and it's one of the songs that I think is when I was writing it was like, boy, this will be fun to play. Like in my head, I can almost see where things are going to kick in. It's going to be like, all right, build it up, they're all going to slam in together.
Just kind of developed it from there, and kind of repeated the intro and the chorus because it's just catchy.
All right, well, so I had the beginning, I had the chorus, but I had like nothing for the verse. So we're having one of our practices, and Paul just gives me the look like, all right, dude, so what do you got for the verse? And I was like, I got nothing. What can you do? And Paul's like, well, no, I mean, it's been a long day, but I got this idea.
We said, where do we go from here? And I kind of said, well, we're already dropping and picking up the song. We might as well drop it again. I'm not scared to do it, you know? And it's not anything insanely complicated, but it just kind of down the road of like some of our favorite artists.
I finally got a chance to do my slap bass. I didn't want to do that right away, but when I was playing the chorus with you, doing that dun, like that's the perfect spot to do it.
Got that boom, doom, damn, boom, damn.
Again, for me, like with any of the songs, you guys are the main writers, so it's hard for me to be as connected to the song, but adding those parts to it is what I'm able to do. For the most part, I think I like to stand out in a subtle way, where I'm not overpowering anything, because that's not really my role.
Like that kind of feel like, you know, you don't know where the song's gonna go is actually fun, I think, from a listener standpoint, when it's like it's not predictable. I think that song is unpredictable.
I feel like it's like a roller coaster. You don't know where it's turning next, but it all kind of makes sense at the end.
But yeah, I mean, even vocally, not that I'm there yet, but it's probably going to be a lot of harsh vocals.
The way you sing that verse is, I just loved it right from the start.
Okay, so it reminds me very much of Every Time I Die in the beginning. It reminds me very much of Deftones in the verses. And then it reminds me of like Dillinger Escape Plan in the chorus.
It's like a mixture of Every Time I Die and Deftones, and kind of like the guitar players all over the place and kind of how he writes.
There's a lot of influences from what we've introduced over the last couple of years, and those are slammed together.
What the heck are they doing? Now they're doing this, and then we build it back up, and then we do like a knocked loose kind of ending where it's just gonna like kick you down.
Yeah, I'm excited to play something over that breakdown. It's a very simple breakdown, but I think it just really hits you and concludes the whole song.
Actually, I didn't really write any lyrics to that song. Paul had them all written out, and that's kind of what we do. We pick and choose which ones can fit. I liked the name Traded for a King. I was drawn to looking at that set of lyrics. And then I just kind of worked the lyrics into however I could. It's a little bit different in terms of having a lot of singing, but then a very chaotic chorus, which is just loud and aggressive. And I really like that song. I think it's got a very, very heavy ending, which is going to make for a great ending to the album, maybe.
Forestburg. That riff has been around for a very, very long time. And when we decided, as basically one of our first songs ever written on our first EP, we wanted to incorporate it. I like it, I love it, right? It's something I wrote, it's something we wrote and incorporated with the other two gentlemen, and they really enjoyed the sound of that kind of twinkly, fast, metal-paced riff.
I have to say, when we first got together on the first trip, and that song was the first one we really put down, I felt like that was very much a Paul and Carl Yoltowski song. Very metalcore, and which is more their forte than Kevin and I.
That's one of my favorite songs. I really like how it was developed. We showed up at the house first time doing this. We're all excited. We got set up, and we just run through that song really quick. It just came together.
Yeah, the song hits from beginning to end. It's always been one of my favorites. I'm very happy that we got to reimagine that one. Specifically in the chorus, I added some layering guitars that were not there.
It's also the first song that, on the trip at least, that I wrote lyrics for. I brought lyrics for the trip for, and was able to use it for that song. I felt naked. Because it's like embarrassing, like, hey, I wrote these lyrics. But what was the cool part about the lyrics was when Paul and Kevin were fine-tuning something, Carl came into the room I was staying at, and we had those two like adjacent chairs set up. We got to a point where Carl was like, all right, I can use most of these, I can use these lyrics, but we're missing a couple lines. And so we started spitballing some things, and so the part in the song where it says, the road less traveled has bridges that are out. That's the only part I had written. And Carl's like, yeah, it's just a little short. We need a little more, little something else. What if we say that the ones left standing are on fire? I was like, oh, snap. And it was a very like collaborative part of the song. And I remember that being like a really cool, like, yeah, that really works. And that's like the fun part of songwriting. It's like you write this part, but it's like you need something else, and then the other person comes in and, you know, writes something that like becomes like one of your favorite lines of the song.
Those songs are raw on the original recording. I don't think we were at this level as we are now in writing. And the recording is just not very good. I mean,
just the production of it just makes it sound so... It's so much heavier, cleaner. Every instrument sounds better. It sounds tighter.
The original version, which is interesting, is there's no technically solo. It's that one lead just kind of going over and over and over again. It's always the one thing that bothered me about that song. And to be able to kind of just do a quick kind of 2-4 bar riff off of what that lead is in order to kind of lead into that final epic chorus really was a cherry on top for me in regards to re-recording the song.
It's a great rock song, and most people like it. That's one of the songs that people talk about.
And again, I think it's stood the test of time. It's still one of my favorites to this day.
The breakdown, I was able to come up with that idea, which was nice to have that contribution.
So yeah, Forestburg, being the first song that we really did there has a special place because of that, being like the first one we really dove into.
Where Dust Lies is probably my least favorite.
Okay. Least favorite? Where Dust Lies, I like it, but I go back to it the least. And least favorite?
Where Dust Lies.
Where Dust Lies.
Okay. I don't dislike it. It's probably just my least favorite. Like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to re-record it because I think it would sound a lot better done right.
Especially Where Dust Lies. That was my one of my least favorite songs.
Where Dust Lies was kind of that last song, short, sweet, 3.5 minutes long, I believe. I really just wanted to kind of hit someone in the mouth, right, in regards to how that song starts, and that's kind of what we developed. The first year, there wasn't a lot of organization, and it led to this fast, fun song. It's not a lot of parts. It's, you know, if you think about it, it's really just the main verse riff, a little breakdown, verse riff, chorus, same thing played over again as a solo, and then kind of just end it epically. I, at times, did not like it because of the recording quality. That breakdown kind of was messy with the screaming and things along those lines, and you, going from the original to now, you can hear that haunting kind of lead was recalibrated. We kind of wrote it, I'm going to say, in a couple hours, and we had lyrics that work.
At first, that's one of the songs I wasn't always crazy about. There's no real reason why. But when we redid it, it became one of my favorite songs. It's just so good. And I love what Carl did with my bass on a verse. He really amped it up so it really bleeds through and it kind of pushes the song. I love that. And then the layering and all that.
It's crazy because that is the one and mostly one and only song that we wrote and recorded on any of our trips on the trip. Paul had some lyrics he started scratching together, and me and Carl, I believe, tied up some loose ends on it. But it's cool because it's like, wow, we wrote that on the trip. But a lot of us almost thought it was like a throwaway, though. After all the stuff we written, we were like, like it's not the one we go back to. But again, when we decided to do the re-record, you know, it gave a breath of new life into this song. Like, I think all of us at one point said, like, boy, this, like, for a little while is like my favorite song because it sounded heavier and cleaner, and all the production value to it just made the song what it is now. So, you know, if we didn't do that re-record, might never even go back to it. So I'm happy for that. It saved that song.
Still fire with the truck? There's still wood truck? A little bit, yeah.
Last band. Breakdown. Here, let him start over. He needs the.
Yeah.
Yep. Breakdown. And then after.
It's funny watching ourselves record this song, even with having to do things over again. It's so much simpler and easier to do than the first time around 5 years ago. We didn't have a computer, we didn't have a click track, we just were having to punch in at the right time on Paul's recorder, which was all, kind of manually done, a lot of button pressing. So just, even though this looked difficult and tricky, it was a breeze compared to the first time.
3, 2, and 1, go.
I noticed that for some reason, one of Paul's signature dance moves is to kind of walk away from the action, which I always find entertaining.
Goosies. Stops. And the Goosies. The stops. And the Goosies. And the stops. And the Goosies. Bum, 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 bum. Slide that beat.
Retake a long before long. I think it sounds so much better the second time around.
I'm trying to think of like where my frustrations peaked. Long before long for some reason, but I believe Carl Gilotowski looked at me and was like,
"Is it just because you don't like the song?"
And it's like, not that I don't like the song. It's that we don't play it a lot. I need to remind myself every single time, and it is very simple, but it's, I don't know.
Long Before Long is very special because I wrote, at least the beginning was like in 2005. I wrote it on my acoustic guitar. It wasn't exactly the way it sounds like now, but that intro at least was the way it was in 2005. And I never had a chorus for it. I had variations of it, and then the chorus hit me, some years later, and I remember being like, man, I wish I could play this with a band. And so when Forestburg, the trip was planned, I said, that's the song I'm bringing. That's like the song. And that was my sole contribution to the trip. The first year was that song. First and only song I have like a true solo to that I wrote, and I wrote all the lyrics. Like, that was my baby for that project. Like, that, I always wanted it done.
So Long Before Long is one of my favorite songs to play. It's just a lot of fun bass-wise. And I'm glad I got another opportunity to play it again and to really do a better job, because I was able to improve my bass playing over the years, taking lessons and everything. And I never felt so much in the pocket when I recorded that song. And it turned out really great.
It kind of sucks that song I brought to the first year, because now the recording, in retrospect, doesn't sound that great. It sounds crackly. There's some things on it that I'm like, it just doesn't sound polished. So when we did this re-record, I was excited, and Carl even said, I want you to be proud of this, and I very much am.
Definitely a precursor, I feel like, to maybe some of the different sounds that we incorporated years later. You know, it's melodic. It was definitely the first song that kind of was outside of quote unquote my comfort zone. It definitely does feel a little different. I think it ends very, very majestically. I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use it. It is a unique song. I don't think we've written too many songs like it, but you can definitely hear the influence and kind of where our brains have continued to shift, which is don't worry necessarily if it fits inside a box. And that song definitely doesn't fit inside of maybe some of our heavier catalog.
Like Paul had said, these songs are always, it's nice if someone else enjoys them, but we write them for ourselves. And it's like, that song, that song just means a lot to me. The lyrics were really about someone feeling like they can't get out of their own way with whatever they're battling. So you might have someone that deals with like drugs or alcoholism. Maybe they deal with negativity of themselves, like their own mental battles. You know, you get into these cycles of just, you know, that eventually it's got that weakness that you have is going to show its face again. But you beg for it to release you from its hold on you. Lyrically, I feel like a lot of people could relate to it. But again, like I said, no one really mentions anything about it, but that's okay because it means a lot to me.
It was the start of something uncomfortable, but in a positive way.
This is a great song. I love how you get one feeling, and then when it switches over to the gallops, it just gives you a completely different vibe. And I love when it switches. That switch, it makes you do that face, that bass face.
That is the closer of the album. It is what I consider one of our best songs, and I think it's epic. Surprisingly enough, it was our first constructed song as a unit of 4. I think that is noteworthy. It is really enjoyable to play as well to this day, and I'm really glad we got to re-record it.
So that song, I believe we actually practiced together a little bit before the first Forexburg trip. So that one we kind of had an idea of how that was going to go. I remember going there kind of knowing what that was. We're going to polish some things up, but the body and the structure was there. At first glance, like again, that wasn't really how I write music. Like Paul had that crazy spastic guitar riff at the beginning. You know, at that up to that point, ever writing music, I never really did something like that. So Gallops is kind of like everything that makes up Yesterday Night, because it has a little bit of the heavy and melodic and a sing-along chorus. So that one I think was the trip favorite that year.
Heavy verse, melodic chorus, one of my personal favorite solos that I've written, classical plus bluesy.
And then the chorus, it just is by far my favorite chorus that we have.
And then the remake of it, I think it just polished it all up, right? It's just Carl's vocals were more put together on it. He really, because it was something he's heard for so long, was really able to get some meat behind it, so to speak. And it's still one of my favorite choruses.
I really hope that one day I can sing that live with Carl. Well, all 4 of us could be guest stars in that chorus.
You know, I feel like the older we get, at least the older I get, I feel like the lyrics are even more appropriate. You know, the idea of, you know, seeing pictures of yourself from years ago. You see a picture from when you're 16, a picture from when you're 24, a picture when you're 34. picture soon to be 44 for myself. You know, like there's something behind those eyes, so to speak. And you watch the time lapse of your own life and things that you've done, things you've gone through, things you've gotten over, love, loss, everything in between. So I think it's one of those songs that lyrically and the way it's written, like even the emotional flow of it, is just something that like I feel like it will stand the test of time. Even if we're still hopefully doing this in 10, 15 years, we'll always look back fondly on time-lapse gallops for horses.
It feels like a closer, and it is, again, one of my personal favorites just because I feel like it does everything well.
In this time of tragedy, I forever see those eyes staring back at me, back at me.
Yeah, that's it.
Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine that. At the Summer Theater.